My name is Carr. I live at 7 River Street with my husband, John, and have lived there for over 42 years, having purchased our house in 1973. The house was built by 1788 and is over 227 years old. I want you to have some idea of my roots in the city, just as Webb did in its own presentation, and for you to have a face and background of someone who lives in this neighborhood. I know many of you on the City Council from my teaching career at Salem High School, spanning 28 years, beginning in 1972, with some time taken off to raise our 3 sons. Councilor Sargent was a student in my class when I first started teaching, and his son Eric was recently one of my students. And I had the pleasure of teaching 2 of Councilor Fury's sons. And I've worked for years alongside Councilor Ryan's sister Alice, a guidance counselor at Salem High School. I always gave over 100% of my efforts to teaching. I wrote many grants that generated close to $60,000 for the high school. And just as I put tons of energy into teaching, I have also devoted tons of energy into preserving our house at 7 River Street. When we bought on the street in 1973, the majority of the houses were run down and covered with asbestos and aluminum siding. One house had no central heating, causing the owner to use his gas stove for heat and boiling water on the burners to create his own steam heat. He didn't even have an indoor bathroom. He used a bucket instead. There were no trees on the street. The sidewalks were all hot top. It was very risky buying a house on River Street. And I just want to show you this first one here. This one? That one, yes. This first one right here. Yep. So that's some idea of what River Street looked like when we bought on the street. Over years, it has changed. Okay, and just make sure you show over here. Okay? My husband and I were one of the first to push for change, and one by one, ever so slowly, with the arrival of each new owner and their support, River Street painstakingly began to improve. My husband, along with others, was very instrumental in pushing for and creating the first historic district. It seems like a no-brainer now, but back then it wasn't easy to convince homeowners of the advantages of living in an historic district. My husband and I paid for and planted the trees that are still on the street today, each now over 25 years old. As a neighborhood, we ripped up the asphalt, sidewalks, and laid down the bricks. And today, all the neighbors contribute to hanging flower baskets and lights that string across the street at Christmas. During the 90s, my husband and some others worked endlessly with the state to design and lobby for what is today called Leslie's Retreat Park, devoting years of time to this project. And I want you to see what River Street looks like right here, this one. This is how we've changed it. Top picture is the before, and then you can see afterwards. You see the trees, you see the flowers, you see the wreaths hanging across the street. It took a long time to get there. I want to take you back a bit to the 1950s, when I was a little girl, about 6 years old. Come for a ride with me in our 1952 Chevy. Let's leave my house on Pulaski Street in Peabody, right near the A.C. Lawrence Leather Factory, and drive along Route 114, heading to 60 Perkins Street in Salem, Palmer's Cove, to visit my Meme and Pepe. But in order to get there, we have to drive over the overpass. Today, you don't think much about it, but back then, the first thing we did if we had a window seat in the car was to get ready to hold our breath and turn the handle on the car door really fast in order to roll up the windows. Why? Because the stench and foul odor from the North River was overwhelming. Those were the days when the leather factories were in full swing and the pollution of the North River was unbearable. Low tide was always the worst. Not only could you smell the putrid air, but you could see the sludge at the bottom of the river. It was a dumping ground for everything. Today, it's Leslie's Retreat Park. Walk over the overpass someday. Walk the perimeter of the park. Look at the centuries-old home standing proudly across Bridge Street. It's breathtaking. So I have this last one here. And this is Leslie's Retreat Park, and it was worse than that. This was a little bit better. And then now you see this beautiful picture of what it looks like. This is from that bridge that's on Leslie's Retreat Park. And there's that Webb building, a great building. Great building. Before Bridge Street was filled in, the river was the backyard to all those homes. By allowing Webb to build an approximately 35-foot-high building taking up most of the land, the quality of life for the neighborhood will be adversely affected by the sound of the never-ending drone created by mechanicals and outside compressors on the roof, the smell of the exhaust and the noise from diesel trucks and the loading and unloading of supplies right in our backyards, the beeping warning sounds from the trucks as they back up, and the shaking of our house foundations. No. That is not what Federal Street, Beckford Street, and River Street bargained for when we bought into our homes, neighborhoods. It is not compatible with a neighborhood. Just when we think all the chips are falling into place, we are now faced with an R2 zone possibly being changed to B4, which might not require design review and which is spot zoning. Do you think we all would have put forth the effort into fixing up and maintaining our homes, fighting for preservation, and making the sacrifices that come with owning a home that's centuries old, only to find out that there is a move afoot to change R2, which we relied on never changing, into B4, which once in place will never go away. If Webb later decides to relocate, that parcel becomes available to drive-ins and fast food restaurants, retail stores, etc. Where is the support for the homeowner? We are good neighbors who passionately contribute positively to the neighborhood and the city. Edges to historic districts are precious. If you keep chipping away at those edges, pretty soon you will be left with nothing. It's like a pearl necklace. If you keep removing one pearl at a time, you will be left with no necklace. The edges protect all that is inside. If Webb builds, do you think the residents who are negatively affected by this development are going to remain in their homes? Wouldn't you decide to sell your house before the development reduces the value of your home and the quality of life? Is that what you want to have happen? Is Webb more important than the people who actually live in Salem 24 hours a day, every day of the year? Thank you.
Next we have Tim Jenkins. Tim?